Hello everyone, we're here in the headquarters of Acme Paper and Supply at Savage, Maryland, north of DC. We are going to learn how Acme Paper and Supply works, what they do, and we're also going to have a tour of their facility. It's always fun to go visit a distribution center, and we have with us Scott Attman. Scott, thank you so much, and thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to go look at the facility and also learn about the business.
Happy to have you here. We should go take a walk and show you off. So this is my grandfather and my grandmother. They started the business. That's my father, who you met just a moment ago, my Uncle David, my Uncle Stephen. Everybody's still in the business. And now it's third generation with myself, my brothers, and a cousin as well. 78 years ago, this was probably the opening of this building, which was 1979. What I think we're most proud of is, if you look at this picture, this is our customer service team. I'm going to guess by some of the stuff in this picture, this was probably around 1989, 1990. And Barbara just retired a couple years ago. She still comes back and helps support some stuff pretty often. Faith is still here and works in customer service. And even Joy just retired several years ago. So I think tenure for us is really something that we value and that's important to us. And I think it's something, even as third generation, it's something that we take on as a responsibility for us to continue in the organization. It's amazing that there's still a lot of familiar faces of people that are still here and operating in the business. So my grandfather started the business coming up April 1st, 78 years ago.
1946.
Yeah, in the trunk of his car. His father actually was an immigrant, worked in a delicatessen in Baltimore. Man said, "You're a nice young man, I'll sell you the deli, make it your own." And for $27, he sold him a restaurant. That was 110 years ago. It's now the oldest family-owned deli in the country, called Attman's Delicatessen in downtown Baltimore. There's another location in Potomac, Maryland. My grandfather was the first natural-born citizen. He went to University of Baltimore, went to World War II. When he returned, he was getting married to my grandmother. And my great-grandmother, his mother, said to him, "Deli business will be here if you need it. It's a lot of work. There's a man who sells us paper bag, butcher paper. The product doesn't spoil. He wears a nice suit. Why don't you try doing that?" So he started selling paper bags out of the trunk of his car, April 1st, 1946. That was Acme Paper. As he would tell me the story, for 14 years, he worked every day at Acme Paper, every evening at Attman's Delicatessen, until he felt that the business was able to allow him to sustain a living and support his family. And then it was Acme Paper. But a lot of amazing stories. Our last name is Attman. Acme, which you see a lot from, that 1940s time as a common name, was really because people found us in the phone book first. There was another company at the time called Altman Paper. And my great-grandmother said to him, "You want to be first in the phone book?" So Acme was the name. We have a gene in our family. You met my father, you haven't met my uncles yet, but we live to work. It's a family business. No one was required to be in the business. I think it's something that we grew up around. And if the opportunity was there and it was something that interested us, the doors were open for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So even where we are in the building, this room is sort of where we're standing right now. This was the old conference room. Then this was a salesman area. And, the building was much smaller then. As I tour you through it, we've done 3 different editions over the years, 1979 through 2000. We are officially no more additions to this building. And, at some point we'll find a new space to continue the growth.
And that's your grandfather?
That's my grandfather. And that's probably correct.
Be reasonable.
Be reasonable, do it my way. That's sort of how it was. So, but he was sharp. He passed away almost exactly 9 years ago from today. And he came to work every day, even up until he went into the hospital. He was here in a suit every day, dialed in, up to 96 years old. And when he spoke, he had something to say with intention and with purpose. And I'm fortunate that I was able to work with him till I was almost 40 years old.
That's amazing. So you not just work with your father, but also with your grandfather. That's impressive.
We had 3 working generations together.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very fortunate. Oftentimes we'll have clients come to us, or even just guests, people in other industries, and they enjoy coming to the warehouse. Sure. To me, I take some of it for granted. I've just been around it for so long. All the moving pieces, the amount of products that we have in here. We have about 15,000 products in the building. We represent well over 1 million products to our clients. I often refer to this building as the Cops and Robber building. When I was a kid growing up in the business, if it was a snow day, if it was raining, I'm one of 4 kids. My mother said, get them out of the house. So we came here, we would play, my brothers and I would run through here and play. The computers weren't what they were then. So there were tasks and things for me to do at that time. So the day I could alphabetize, they put me to work. I would do the filing. People would come back with the paper invoices. Through the center of customer service was just a long file cabinet. And my job was to put everything in the file cabinet and file the invoices for the day. I would run the letters through the postage stamp machine. I always enjoyed that. Every now and then I got to play on the copy machine. But those were jobs that I could do as a kid. And someone said, well, when did you get into management? And I said, when my younger brothers could alphabetize, I gave them some of those responsibilities. And as you look down that aisle, that cement wall didn't used to be a cement wall. That used to be a sliding door. And rail cars came behind here. And my grandfather selected this location due to access to rail cars because we were taking deliveries by rail at that time. When gas prices shot up in the early 2000s, there was discussion about turning the rail system on back in this area. There were so many repairs, it was too costly, but there was discussion about reactivating all of that in that space. But that was one of the unique things about characteristics of this building, was the fact that we had access to rail car when we first opened. The original building where we are right now, 1979 to about 1986. We walked through this doorway here, this area all the way through that end over there. That happened in about 1986, and that allowed us to expand our operations significantly. That's our A building, and that happened in the year 2000. And you'll notice the ceilings are higher in there, and that was really due to forklifts start to go higher, and that gave us a little bit of additional capability and capacity due to height and the forklifts. We use a barcode system. We scan in, we scan out. So when a slot empties, that slot's not necessarily dedicated to trash bags or pizza boxes. It's just a dedicated open bin. Products are categorized by the velocity that they turn, that we know that we want high turning items towards the front. We know that if we want people to load trucks and they're going to move back to front, we want heavy items towards the back so they can start their pallets and move forwards towards the dock doors. And it's built around a lot of efficiency. In the last year, really leveraging, as we've done a lot of these software upgrades, we've done a complete ERP implementation. And with that for us was we had a universal system that was a legacy system for decades. So we did an ERP implementation that was all systems all at one time. That is a little unique. Normally people want to do one system at a time. So we are about 9-10 months in to having the system up off the ground. So the first thing that we needed to really solidify, as I'm sure you understand, was getting the ERP system to run successfully and stabilized. Now we're starting to work on some of the optimizations of the warehouse operation. We have a separate WMS that bolts on. We're working with Corber or High Jump. And with that, we're now starting to understand, okay, what are all the capabilities of the systems that we can start to take advantage of, which includes voice pick and light pick.
Your products are easy to understand, right? It's not complicated.
No,
right?
yeah.
So it's very easy to understand. You talked about pizza boxes. So essentially you would, let's say Domino's, you'd supply to them, those boxes come from you?
Yeah, so we are, my grandfather's, again, we started as a paper supply company. That's why the name says paper. Plastic hadn't been invented yet. So in 78 years, a lot of other materials have come about. In the world of innovation and where's the world going, sustainability, tremendous. Obviously, energy efficiency, tremendous. When you talk about facilities and the buildings, automation and robotics. We have a school system that, let's say around midnight, we have the large floor machines that scrub the floors, all robotic. They release around midnight. They scrub the floors in about depending on the size of the school, a 2 to 4 hour period of time, all mapped out, return to a docking station. For the people to come in the next morning, they plug them in so they're charged for the next day. And all the schools are cleaned via robotics.
Right, so you own the trucks too?
Yes.
You know, the Acme branding and everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of thought goes into, the trucks, because there are billboards.
Yeah, totally.
We get a lot of phone calls where people say, hey, I'd like someone to come talk to us. And in that process, we'll always ask, well, how'd you hear about us? Oftentimes it's a referral. I've worked with you before, or, I worked at this place and I'm moving to this place. But a lot of times people say, hey, I was just driving down the street, saw your truck, and wanted to have someone reach out to you.
I saw the truck. It says Acme Paper and Supply, right?
Yeah.
So what do they reach out to you for?
So oftentimes they say, oh, I didn't know you did that. And our business has changed and developed so much over the year. Clients that we've worked with for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years are still learning about our capabilities, or saying, oh, you know what, I never thought that you guys could do that as well for us. But the best call I ever had, the one that stands out to me, was someone said, hey, Scott, you always seem to help us. You always seem to come through. Any chance you do HVAC systems? And I said, that's outside of our core capabilities. But,
Sure.
the one thing that we're also proud of is if we don't do it, we've been at this for 78 years. We have good relationships with other people in our marketplace, and we're always happy to make connections for them and make it happen.
And do you guys operate mostly out of DC and the surrounding areas, or are you
So, my grandfather, when he started the business, was in downtown Baltimore. The idea of being in East Baltimore and selling to West Baltimore seemed like, mind-blowing at the time. So when he moved, we were in 3 different buildings in Baltimore over the years. When we moved here in 1979, he was a little bit, again, a lot of foresight and vision for him to think, hey, I can go from DC to Baltimore. That wasn't really a thing. 95 hadn't really been completely developed at that time in the beltways. So within this building, originally we were DC to Baltimore. Now we go on our trucks, Trenton, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Allentown, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, DC. We have another office in Richmond that I mentioned to you. So all the way down to the Carolina line. So we do that 5 days a week on our trucks. But we also have, and that's about 90% of our business. But we also have strategic clients that we do custom branded products or unique solutions where we're doing stuff coast to coast in all 40 states. And we've shipped, some of the products internationally as well. I'll take you in.
What are in these pallets, right here? So what are these pallets here?
What do we got going on right here?
Yeah.
So this is deli paper. Nothing.
Deli paper.
Yeah. So if you're going to your local sandwich shop and you get your sandwich wrapped in deli paper, that's I'm looking around. So deli paper, bakery tissue. So our manufacturer that we get that from, this is some of the product for those items. If you're going to a stadium, and you're getting your chicken tenders and French fry in the basket, these happen to all be plain. But if you're going to an Orioles game or a Ravens game and it's printed, that's all coming from us.
So do they send it packed, or you pack it here, or how does that work?
It all comes manufactured to us. Everything's sealed, palletized. We take it from here, scan it, put it in a rack, scan it into a rack, and then as invoices get printed throughout the day, we have pick tickets, pick labels. They tell our guys where to go, scan it, stick it with a label that calls out the client, where it's going, delivery, location, and then we send them out. And it may be, some items we deliver by the each, some we do it by the case, some we do it by the pallet. So this is the equipment shop. So you get an idea of some of the floor machines that we have. So these are carpet machines. Those are floor scrubbing machines. You can see there's the ride-on units, standing ride-on units. These are not the robots that I mentioned to you, but these are all robotic units that just release and do all the cleaning themselves.
Like SoftBank robotics.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah. And then our repair shop, and that's something.
So you also do repair as well?
Correct.
Okay.
That's something that's unique to Acme. When we talk about differentiation and value, that's something that we pride ourselves on, that we can not only provide the equipment, but do the work. And in some cases, there's clients where they have equipment that's older equipment that they didn't get from us. We can still honor all warranties and do the work.
Honestly, when I came in here, I did look at your website and everything. I did my research, but I didn't know you were selling robotics as well and all that, right? So how did this whole evolution happen?
In a world where all we hear about is consolidation, right? And multiples. My grandfather would say he worked hard, but he was really lucky along the way. Part of our story is, I say Baltimore is a small town, right? It's a major city, but it's still a small community. When he was building the business, at certain points in time, people had other adjacent businesses. So he had the restaurant packaging business, all the disposables. He knew someone that had a janitorial business, and they had a conversation, and the guy said, you know, why don't I come and work for you? My grandfather's business was doing well. The other people had a good business, but saw value in joining and working together. My grandfather was selling restaurant supplies, thought it would be good to have janitorial supplies to go with it. Restaurants needed to be clean, and then he could branch out in these others. So it was an acquisition, but not in the way that the current world does acquisitions. It was just, hey, we'll be better together than separate. And they joined. And there's probably 2, 3, maybe 4 different scenarios of that between 1948 and probably around 1999, where we were fortunate to acquire other businesses because they just saw a value in being part of Acme, and they thought it would be better for their business. I think my grandfather would say it was good luck, but it was probably some luck, but as well as working hard, being honest, and being of high integrity, and and that just being his reputation out on the street.
Definitely, and also being strategic, right? Like you talked about, you're selling restaurant supply, then Janssen opportunity came by, you took that on. And how did the robotics happen?
And we were already doing this type of equipment, so robotics is no different than watching AI develop right now in software. It's just the next step, right? The manufacturers would speak to end users or clients, right? Building operators, and say, what's your biggest challenge? Everybody's challenge, you'll hear labor often, right? So they said, okay, well, let us come up with that. So as we're watching like Waymo cars and some of that stuff go on right now, we've been working with robotics for 10 years or so. Now it's been getting significantly better every year. Capabilities, the ability to work even in closer margins to ensure safety and just better performance, that continues to improve. But these pieces of equipment, which people, again, the general public doesn't necessarily know these types of solutions are out there. When we suggest it to them, their first inclination is usually, oh, well, that's probably outside of my price range. But once we start to really ask questions, understand their business, it makes great sense. And like I said, the ROI on some of that technology is rather quick.
On these instances, right, do the manufacturers reach out to you, or you reach out to them, or how does that span out?
Great question. If somebody were to say, Scott, what's your culture? I speak a lot about my grandfather because it's still, he still emanates throughout the building. He came in every day and would say, what's new? And that wasn't what's new, like what happened yesterday or something happened today. It was like, hey, where are we going tomorrow? And that always drove us. And I think with that, the manufacturing community sees us as a vehicle for them to launch innovation and try new things. Where a lot of people say, no, we're happy with where we are. This is what works for us. I think we are always in a place where, you hear people say it's safe to fail, where we want to try new things. We want to test new things, and we have great manufacturer relationship where they bring those, ideas to us, and we succeed together. I don't like to say that we fail together, but we learn together, when it doesn't work sometimes, and try and figure out what the next step is, always to keep moving forward.
In the distribution business, right? Tell me something you guys tried and it did not work. Hey, you know what? Okay, we're going to put that aside. We're not going to do that. Is there anything like that?
It precedes me a little bit. My uncle was doing a project with the Baltimore Zoo years ago. Great idea. And it worked for a little bit. It was ahead of its time. So the idea was people were using a lot of styrofoam products, and there was a piece of equipment called the Styromelt. So the zoo had all of these styrofoam cups and containers, and this was before we really got deep into sustainability. But they knew that they could use that material for other things, like making park benches. So there was a machine called the Styromelt. If you were buying certain packaging items from this manufacturer, you could get this Styromelt machine. And at the end of the day, sort of like recycling, even though recycling definitely wasn't then what it is now, you would take all the styrofoam containers that you collected that day, you would dump them into the machine, it would melt it all down into this brick, and then you could send the bricks back to this manufacturer where they would take that to make park benches and other materials and things out there. Conceptually, great idea. It may have taken like 10,000 cups to make one brick. While we were pushing for it, the world didn't necessarily see it that way.
Sure.
So we're pushing innovation through, but we're just one of many. And, should there have been somebody in every state? Perhaps, but it didn't go on from there. Even as I'm telling you that story, something as simple as compostable products and sustainable. So items made of PLA, which is, it appears to be plastic, but it's a material that is 100% compostable, made from plant starches. So potato, tapioca, items like that, corn. We were selling catering bowls, catering trays throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, and the manufacturer called us after several years, and we were selling quite a bit of it. They said, we're discontinuing the line. And I said, how could you possibly be discontinuing the line? We're doing a truckload a week of this. And they said, you're our only customer in the entire country. So sometimes...
And what product was this?
This was compostable catering bowls, catering trays.
Sure.
So, whether you're going to the grocery store, you're going to a deli, or you're ordering catering for your house from a caterer, all sustainable. Again, we were pushing the envelope ahead of our time, but...
And then what happened? Did they continue selling it to you, or?
No, we were the only people using it in the entire country.
Wow.
50 states, we were the only people.
And it didn't make
out
sense
there.
For them to
continue to run it. It's still a dollars and cents business. No matter how much you want to save the earth, it's a dollars and cents business.
Do you see customers willing to pay for that?
Yeah, I think there's a paradigm shift in anything. I think the assumption is, I want to do good, so it's going to cost me more. I think if you go into it with an open eye or open mind, you end up learning there are some parts that cost more. There are actually some parts that cost less. When you do a complete evaluation, could it cost 10% more? Possibly. Could it even cost 30% more? Possibly. It could also be cost neutral or even 10% less, depending on what the products you're even using on in the beginning. So we have something called a green product analysis, and call it GPA. Everybody likes a good acronym, right? So it's a green product analysis where we'll do a complete examination of the current products they're using, and then we do a side-by-side comparison that if we look at all those products in a sustainable solution, what's the cost difference there, and then what's the sustainable benefit to those pieces.
Right. So you have your own in-house technicians for this repair and all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, again, in a world of, limitations of people with trade experience, again, something that we're really proud of. Trying to figure out what 4 images were going on a truck.
Yeah.
You would have thought we were building the next high-rise building in Manhattan, but it came.
It takes a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah. But it came out great.
Yeah.
And
I love the truck, actually. Yeah.
we really do. We get a lot of compliments on it, and I think it tells our story. And on the rear of the truck, you can see one of those down there. Oh, you're actually with the handshake on the back. I think that sort of speaks to who we are and what we try and accomplish. My grandfather had his car in the beginning, but he had a truck shortly thereafter, one truck. Obviously, everything starts with one. But I would say still in the 1940s, we had our first truck.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
it's a picture on my iPad. That's the screen,
yeah.
shot is the first Acme
Awesome,
truck.
Yeah. It's nice weather also today.
You got a good one today.
Yeah.
Last week, I don't know, it would have been this comfortable.
Sure, yeah. So you work very closely with your brothers and all that?
Yes, yeah. The way our business is set up is my father and one of my uncles are co-CEOs. Another uncle is president. My brothers and I are executive vice presidents, but really my main responsibility is business development, the DC metro area, another brother, Baltimore metro area, or at least even north of that. And my other brother runs purchasing.
Okay.
So amongst all of us, we're always sort of brainstorming collectively, what do I see out in the market? What does he see out in the market? And then even meeting with my brother from purchasing, who's bringing ideas to us, but also we're going out to him and saying, hey, we're hearing this from our clients. Is this something you think you may be able to source for us? Or go out to the manufacturers and tell them we would love to see something, that could solve this problem. I don't know as kids if we thought we would work as close as we are together, right? We're 3 competitive boys, but it's a great relationship now. This is the brain trust right here. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So in this picture, Ronnie, he was one of our top sales guys. He's retired now, but we still, spend a lot of time talking to him. my uncle. This was Jim Hare. That is Jim Hare. Jim was our VP of sales for a long time, still works with us and still works on, tremendous accounts for us, or strategic accounts for us, and was our VP of sales for 40 years and was integral in the growth of the organization for the last 40 years. And then you see my grandfather, my uncle, and my father there. But around this time, I was coming to the office pretty regularly. I knew all of these people. I probably pulled samples for them and did some sort of paperwork for every single one of the guys in that picture. Cool. Yeah. So this was actually my grandfather's office that was there. Now these all used to be offices. My father, my uncles, some of our IT personnel work in that space. Predominantly, this is all AR. Some of our custom packaging team that's doing all the custom branded packaging and sort of.
And what about the printing of those packages? You guys do that here as well? Or?
We don't. We have a team here who will do all of the sort of development of what it can look like, what the designs of them, the shapes of them, but we outsource the actual production.
Okay.
Yeah. So then this was the last addition that we did. When we did that A building, we pushed out to this area too. So these now are the executive offices. Dale Frankie, our VP of sales, is over there. Accountant, AP is over on that side. Our team that's doing all of our online systems is over here. And then we have an area for our salespeople back in the corner over there.
So the design team is upstairs, right? You said?
Yeah.
So it's nice, you have the history of the company across the walls.
Yeah,
it's awesome, actually.
It's something we're proud of.
Yeah.
Even in the world of things that people say, oh, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
All of this tape, this is all called photoluminescent technology. So on the stairs on here, if the power goes out, all of this lights up and glows. The technology was actually used in the World Trade Centers that in 9/11, it actually helped get so many people out safely. Most of our exit signs are non-illuminated. So it's product that needs no light, that you don't have to, a typical electric sign needs a couple $1,000s to wire. Each one has to be wired independently to a circuit breaker. So when we're designing restaurants and they're trying to do some value engineering of it, we can show them some solutions where they go, oh, I had no idea you did that on exit signs and some different things where we can pull electrical requirements and again, support sustainability throughout. In certain states, I think Colorado and Nevada, maybe California, Arizona, it's required, but in most states it's not. So those are things that we like to push.
So what are these here, actually? I'm just curious.
So these are all blueprints for projects that we're working on here. We can show, we'll go look over. So Bob's our cat operator. So
Hi, Bob.
Herschel and Joshua aren't here today. As they come back, they'll show. So his company, DC Cap, they're the integration software in between our online ordering system and NetSuite. So he also runs a podcast on some of the different businesses. So we're just touring through. And and he was fascinated with the idea that we do some of the restaurant development and design work. So I wanted to let him come up and see.
Yeah, we do CAD design for restaurants. We do the equipment layout. We go in and then once make up a schedule for it and then do the electricals, the plumbing, and the drainage for them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so these are just some of the plans that we have done. That's the plan right there. And it's just showing you how it's tagged and so forth. And then once we've done that, we put in the schedule for it. And then customers, once in a while, as the construction proceeds, will make in revisions. Some changes might occur here and there. Things might not fit, or some people change their minds. So we come back and then we do a lot of those revisions right there. Those are the clouds that you see right there in blue. That's this one's right here.
Wow. This is very fascinating, right? So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, right? So you tell me if I'm wrong. So essentially, let's say I want to have a restaurant. Then I come to Acme. Hey, I'm going to build a restaurant. This is what I need. So can you guys design it for me?
Yeah.
And you would do it?
Yeah. So we don't do the pretty part where you walk into the front where all the lights go and what the tile is. But essentially, we take the rest of that empty box get an understanding with you. What are the menu items? How many people do you want to serve? And then try and get an understanding of what the feel of the restaurant is, open kitchen, closed kitchen, and ask a lot of questions. And then we come back with Bob and start with an empty box measured to the size of the space. And then we draw up the initial plans and start working on it with you. So once we do that design work, then we also sell the equipment to those clients. I mean, even just to get an idea of like, when we talk about like how many products, these are just some of the catalogs. All of these are catalogs in these drawers too of all of the different manufacturers. This is just for, like that is just refrigeration.
Oh, wow. So
right.
The products which you are selling?
Yeah. So that's just refrigeration, right? If you look at this, this is just for bartender supplies.
Oh, wow.
So when you go into a restaurant next time and start to look around, right, all of that, those little just nuances of things come from somewhere, and that's what we're doing. And it's amazing that like each of these things have its own unique feel and create its own experience, and that's what our job is. I was listening to one of your podcasts with a distributor, and they were talking about differentiation. I think ultimately any good organization, that's what they're trying to do. Not only are they differentiating their own business, as a distributor, I'm helping my clients achieve whatever their goal is to differentiate their business. If you think about restaurants, hotels, buildings, Class A office buildings, they're all fighting for the same thing, right? The restaurant next door to the other restaurant still wants someone to go there. They want someone to order carryout from them. They want them to come back and do it again. So how do they create an experience unique enough for themselves that someone says, you know what, tomorrow, let's go back to that place we went to last week, right? Or, hey, I need to find an office building for my business. Let's go find that one that was really clean. That, I think when my customers or clients come in, they'll think better of me. Or when I find a nursing home for my parents, that one was clean. The food looked great on those plates. Those are all the things that we try and do for our clients.
It's awesome.
My brother's he's at a seminar for a couple days, but our purchasing team works in this space. So Noel, Suyan, and then we've got some other people from the team that all work up here as well.
To meet you, Noel. Yeah, thank you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So back before you could send a PDF art file to someone, we would take these images to the different sports teams or clients, whoever it was, and say, hey, this is what your souvenir cup is going to look like. Let me know if the artwork is okay. And they would look at these and they would sign off on it and say, okay, that's what it is. I was telling you before about the photoluminescent.
Wow.
So that's how that technology works. When the lights go out, you can still safely walk through the building. Yeah, so it's just one of those other things that when we're trying to figure out, we love that sound. That's just one of those other things that we look for as a unique solution for our clients. That's an example of one of the exit signs. Instead of it being lit up, it doesn't need to be lit up. It needs to be lit up if the power goes out. And right now it's absorbing energy. When the power goes out, this light allows that to operate, and that'll stay lit for actually about 90 hours.
Wow. Scott, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this tour, and this was a lot more than what I was expecting, right? So I totally enjoyed this experience. Congratulations, and it's an amazing business. Thanks for the tour. It means a lot to me, especially coming here and learning the different things you do. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming out. As we were talking about, our vendor partners in our traditional business, it's good to have strong partners throughout all parts of our business. So for you to come and see it, we're excited to have you here today and show off all the different things that we're doing.
Totally. It helps us also work better.
Yeah,
thank you.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you for joining our Driven by DC Cap podcast. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button and subscribe. Consider leaving us a review. Thank you for joining us.